Welcome to the Deep Dive,
Oh, yeah.
where we take you on a journey through some fascinating source material. Today, we're diving into the world of the paranormal and unexplained.
Oh.
We've got some intriguing stories, personal encounters,
I love it.
and theories that blend ancient beliefs with modern-day science.
Right.
It's going to be a wild ride.
Awesome.
Buckle up. To guide us through this labyrinth of enigmatic experiences,
Okay.
we have an expert
Thank you.
whose own journey has been intertwined with these very subjects. From capturing images with a camera to capturing stories of the unexplained with a microphone, that's quite a leap.
Yeah, it is.
What sparked this fascinating transition?
It's all connected to a childhood fascination, really. I was captivated by space, aliens, dinosaurs,
Wow.
anything that hinted at the unknown.
Yeah.
But it was an experience at age 8 that truly changed things. During a wave of UFO sightings, I saw something incredible, a classic flying saucer.
Wow, that must have been an unforgettable moment. Did that experience ignite your passion for exploring the unexplained?
Absolutely. That encounter set me on a path of seeking answers, trying to make sense of the things that defy conventional explanations. It eventually led me to shift from photography and filmmaking to hosting a paranormal podcast, where I can delve into these mysteries and share them with others who are equally fascinated.
That's amazing. So from childhood wonder to podcast host, it sounds like a natural progression. And speaking of mysteries, I know you spend a lot of time pondering the enigma of pyramids. What are your current thoughts on these ancient wonders?
The pyramids are endlessly fascinating. I've gone through different phases in my thinking about their construction. Initially, like many, I leaned towards the idea of extraterrestrial intervention. The sheer scale and precision of these structures seemed almost impossible for ancient civilizations to achieve with their supposed technology.
I can see how that conclusion would be tempting. The pyramids definitely challenge our understanding of ancient capabilities.
Right. But as I delved deeper, I started considering the possibility of advanced human civilizations existing in a time period we don't fully understand. Perhaps there's a lost chapter of human history waiting to be uncovered, one that holds the key to understanding how these incredible structures were built.
A lost chapter of human history. That's a compelling idea. It kind of reminds me of the legend of Quetzalcoatl, the white man from the sea, who brought knowledge to ancient Mesoamerica. What if that wasn't a deity, but a figure from an advanced civilization that predates our recorded history?
Exactly. That legend, along with many others around the world, hints at the possibility that we might not have the full picture of our own past.
Fascinating. And it ties into some of the theories about alien infiltration, which I know is something you've explored. What are some of the most intriguing accounts you've come across?
One chilling story I heard on another podcast was about a couple who believed they were abducted by beings with no faces. And then it gets even weirder. These beings somehow replicated the couple, creating duplicates.
Okay, that's definitely unsettling. It makes you wonder about the nature of reality itself.
Right. It's like something out of a science fiction thriller, but with a much more sinister twist. And then there's the account of a retired U.S. official who claims to have a method for identifying alien infiltrator.
What? How does he do that?
He says he mentally challenges them, essentially trying to out them with his thoughts, believing they have mind-reading abilities and will react in a way that reveals their true nature.
That's wild. But it also raises questions about the potential of the human mind. Do you think we all possess untapped abilities that we're just not aware of?
I think it's definitely a possibility. Look at phenomena like telekinesis, telepathy, even bilocation or astral projection. While some might dismiss these accounts, I believe there's more to it than we realize. Perhaps these abilities are latent in all humans, just waiting to be unlocked.
So, are you saying we all have a bit of Jedi potential within us?
Perhaps. There are communities where people claim to practice and document these powers, suggesting that they might be more than just fantasy. Think about Nina Kulagina, the Russian woman famous for her apparent telekinetic and telepathic abilities. Her story, and others like it, make you wonder if we're only scratching the surface of what the human mind is capable of.
That's a really intriguing thought. And it connects to those stories of animals seeming to sense unseen presences. It's like they're tuned into something we're not. Have you encountered any stories about this animal sensitivity?
Absolutely. I have a friend whose cat refused to go upstairs after their dog passed away. It was as if the cat could sense something lingering there, something invisible to human eyes.
It's a common theme in paranormal stories. Do you think animals might have a heightened awareness of other dimensions or energies that we as humans are largely oblivious to?
I think it's entirely possible. We tend to rely so heavily on our technology and our rational minds that we may have dulled our natural instincts and perceptions. Animals, on the other hand, seem to retain that connection to the unseen world.
That's a fascinating perspective. It makes you wonder if there's a whole layer of reality operating alongside our own, one that we're only starting to glimpse through these experiences and stories. And speaking of glimpses, let's talk about those fleeting images we sometimes perceive in our peripheral vision. Those creepy shadow figures that vanish as soon as you turn to look directly at them. What are your thoughts on those?
It's often dismissed as our imagination or tricks of the light, but I think there's more to it than that. I've been researching the concave design of the human eye and how it inherently distorts our peripheral vision. Could those distortions be creating a window into another reality?
A window into another reality. That's a mind-bending concept. And it reminds me of a story you mentioned on your podcast about a blind woman who could interact with Shineks, those mischievous nature spirits from Mexican folklore. It almost seems like a lack of traditional sight might open up other forms of perception.
That's a compelling idea. Perhaps our reliance on our five senses limits our perception of the world around us. What if there are other senses, other ways of perceiving reality that we haven't even begun to explore?
It's like the universe is full of hidden dimensions and unseen forces just waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. And sometimes those unseen forces make themselves known in a much more direct way. You've hinted at a personal experience that really convinced you these phenomena are more than just stories. Could you share that with us?
I'm definitely ready to hear this.
It was a terrifying night. I was living in a two-story house at the time. It started with unexplained sounds, things moving and creaking, a palpable sense of unease.
Okay, I'm already getting goosebumps.
Then it escalated. I had a face-to-face encounter with a small, shadowy being with glowing eyes. It was right there in my room.
Oh, wow. What did you do?
I was paralyzed, utterly drained of energy. It was as if something was feeding off my fear.
That must have been terrifying.
It was. The feeling of helplessness was overwhelming, and afterward, the lingering fear was intense. It wasn't just a fleeting moment. It had a real and lasting impact.
So after that experience, what did you conclude about the nature of this being?
I was convinced it wasn't extraterrestrial, but something else entirely, something darker, something otherworldly. Perhaps what some might call a demon.
That's heavy stuff. Given everything you've experienced, how do you approach the paranormal now? Do you actively seek these experiences out, or do you try to avoid them?
I'm driven by a deep curiosity to understand these phenomena, ghosts, interdimensional beings, even witchcraft. I want to learn as much as I can, but I also approach it with a healthy dose of caution. Respectful curiosity, you could say.
Respectful curiosity, I like that. So where does your exploration take you next?
I believe contact with extraterrestrial life is inevitable, and individuals will have to decide for themselves how to engage with it. And when it comes to things like the Ouija board, I believe in its power, but I wouldn't recommend using it.
Why not?
It's like opening a door to the unknown, and you never know what might step through. I experimented with a Ouija board as a child, and my mother was furious. She was very knowledgeable about the occult and believed it was incredibly dangerous to dabble in such things.
So your mother had a strong connection to the paranormal as well.
She did. She had an extensive collection of books on the occult, but she preferred safer forms of divination, like tarot cards. She always warned me about the potential consequences of opening a portal to the unknown.
Yeah, it sounds like wise advice. You mentioned having another story, something particularly chilling. Would you mind sharing it with us?
It's a secondhand account, but it always sends shivers down my spine. A film student was dealing with the sudden, unexpected death of her mother. She was distraught, of course, but in the midst of her grief, she started seeing her mother around the house.
Oh no, that sounds heartbreaking.
It was. She initially thought it was just her mind playing tricks on her, a manifestation of her grief. She even interacted with her mother's spirit, completely unaware of the truth.
That is heartbreaking. She must have been so confused.
It was only later when she discovered the details of her mother's death that she realized she'd been interacting with her ghost. It seems her mother's spirit was unaware of her own passing, clinging to a final unresolved issue with her daughter.
Wow. That's a really powerful story.
Yeah.
It makes you think about the lingering energy of emotions and the delicate boundary between life and death.
It really does. These stories remind us that there's so much we don't understand about the universe and our place within it.
Absolutely. And sometimes the most profound lessons come from the most unexpected places.
I couldn't agree more. The paranormal is a vast and mysterious realm, and it's a privilege to be able to explore it, even if it's just through these stories and experiences.
I'm with you on that. It's a reminder that there's always more to learn, more to discover, and that the journey itself is the real reward.
Well said. The pursuit of knowledge and understanding is a lifelong endeavor, and it's one that I'm grateful to be on.
Me too. And I'm sure our listeners feel the same way.
I hope so. These are the kinds of stories that spark our curiosity and make us question everything we thought we knew.
And that's a good thing, right?
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
what keeps us searching, keeps us learning, keeps us open to the infinite possibilities that exist beyond the veil of our everyday reality.
I love that. The infinite possibilities beyond the veil. That's a
hmm
perfect note to end on. Thank you again for joining us on the deep dive.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
To our listeners, until next time, keep exploring the mysteries of life.
And remember, the truth is out there, somewhere.
It certainly is.
It's amazing how these stories intertwine personal experiences with broader concepts like the nature of consciousness and the mysteries of life and death.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? It's like each
Mm-hmm.
story is a thread, and when you weave them together, you start to see a bigger picture emerging. A picture that hints at the possibility of hidden dimensions, unseen forces, and a reality that's far more complex than we might imagine.
I completely agree. And it's not just about ancient legends and shadowy figures. It's about the potential that might lie dormant within us, the unexplored frontiers of human consciousness.
You mentioned those online communities where people are exploring telekinesis and telepathy.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to tap into a hidden network of energy or awareness, pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible.
Exactly. They're like modern day explorers, charting the unknown territories of the mind. And it makes you wonder, what if they stumble upon something truly groundbreaking? What if they unlock a hidden potential that's been suppressed or forgotten over time?
It's like a modern-day quest for ancient knowledge.
That's a great way to put it, and it's something I've encountered in my research on witchcraft as well. There's a long history of practices and beliefs that connect to the natural world, to energy manipulation, and to tapping into forces beyond the ordinary.
It's like a different way of understanding the universe, a different set of rules that we're only beginning to glimpse.
And it challenges our assumptions about what's possible. What if there are entire realms of existence that we're simply not equipped to perceive with our ordinary senses?
What if those fleeting glimpses we catch in our peripheral vision, or the unsettling feelings we get in certain places, are hints that those realms are closer than we think?
It's a possibility that both excites and terrifies me. Like the veil between our world and those other dimensions is thinning, allowing for brief intrusions or glimpses into the unknown.
Which brings us back to your own chilling encounter, that feeling of paralysis, of being drained of energy. It's a recurring theme in stories about encounters with darker entities,
It's as if they draw power from our fear, our vulnerability.
which makes it all the more important to approach these experiences with caution and respect, not to provoke or challenge, but to observe and learn to understand the forces at play.
Precisely. We need to remember that we're venturing into the unknown, and there are forces at play that we may not fully comprehend. We need to tread carefully and respectfully.
Thinking about the Ouija board and that idea of opening a portal to the unknown,
Yeah.
it's both fascinating and terrifying.
It's like a bridge between worlds, and you never know what might be waiting on the other side. It's a gamble with fate, and the consequences can be unpredictable.
You mentioned hearing stories of people who've used the Ouija board and experienced negative repercussions.
Oh, yes. Countless stories, hauntings, poltergeist activity, even physical attacks. It's a reminder that we should never take these things lightly.
Your mother's warnings about the dangers of the occult certainly seem relevant here. A healthy respect for the unseen world is essential.
Absolutely. It's not just about avoiding negative experiences. It's about recognizing that there are mysteries beyond our comprehension, and sometimes the best approach is simply to acknowledge their existence without trying to manipulate or control them.
A sense of humility in the face of the unknown.
Exactly. We're not the masters of the universe, but rather participants in a vast and interconnected web of existence.
And perhaps by opening our minds to the possibility of other realms, other dimensions, other forms of consciousness, we can begin to understand our own place within this grand tapestry.
It's a journey of exploration and discovery, and who knows what wonders we might encounter along the way.
You mentioned having a collection of emails and messages from people sharing their own experiences with the paranormal. What are some of the common themes you've noticed in these accounts?
It's fascinating to see the range of experiences people share. There are ghostly encounters, unexplained phenomena, stories of alien abduction, and even encounters with strange creatures. It really runs the gamut of paranormal experiences.
It's amazing how these stories seem to transcend cultures and geographical boundaries.
It really does point to a universal fascination with the unexplained, a shared human desire to make sense of the mysteries that surround us.
It's like we're all searching for deeper meaning, a connection to something beyond the mundane.
I think you're right, and often it's these personal experiences that ignite that search. They challenge our assumptions about reality and make us open to new possibilities.
Are there any stories from your collection that stand out as particularly compelling or thought-provoking?
There's one account that really stuck with me from a woman who described having repeated encounters with a shadowy figure in her home.
Another shadow figure. This seems to be a recurring theme.
This one was different. She described it as being tall and slender with long, sharp fingers.
Okay, that's definitely creepy. Did she have any idea what it was or why it was haunting her?
She believed it was the spirit of a man who had died in the house many years before. She said she could sense his anger and resentment, and that he seemed fixated on her specifically.
It's like he was trapped there, unable to move on.
She tried everything to get rid of him, smudging the house with sage, even calling in a priest for an exorcism.
Did any of it work?
Now, nothing seemed to have a lasting effect. The entity would always return, and the woman was living in constant fear.
That's a terrible situation to be in. It makes you wonder if some spirits are just too attached to this world to let go. Or perhaps they're trapped here by unfinished business or unresolved trauma.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? And it connects back to the story of the film student who was interacting with her mother's ghost. It seems like there's a strong emotional component to many of these paranormal encounters.
Absolutely. Emotions can be powerful forces, and it's possible that they can linger even after death, imprinting themselves on a place or even attaching themselves to a person.
And those who are sensitive to such energies might be more susceptible to experiencing these phenomena. It's as if they're tuning into a different frequency, a different layer of reality where emotions and energy intersect.
That's a really interesting concept.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about the nature of consciousness and how it interacts with the world around us, both seen and unseen. Speaking of which, I wanted to touch on the role of intuition and gut feelings when it comes to the paranormal. Have you noticed any patterns in the stories you've collected where people's intuition played a role?
Absolutely. Time and time again, people describe having a strong sense of foreboding, a feeling that something is off before they have a paranormal encounter. It's like their subconscious is picking up on cues that their conscious mind is not yet aware of.
It's like that little voice inside that says, something's not right here.
Exactly. And it's often dismissed or ignored. But what if our intuition is a finely tuned instrument that can detect subtle shifts in energy or the presence of unseen forces?
I've definitely had experiences where my gut feeling told me to avoid a certain place or situation, and it turned out to be for a good reason. It's like a primal instinct warning us of potential danger.
Our ancestors relied heavily on their intuition for survival. They had to be attuned to their surroundings and sensitive to potential threats.
It makes you wonder if modern society has dulled our natural instincts. We're constantly bombarded with stimuli, and we've become accustomed to relying on technology and logic to navigate the world.
I think there's truth to that. We may have lost touch with some of our innate abilities, but I believe those ancient instincts are still there, buried beneath the surface, waiting to be reawakened.
So how can we tap into our intuition and learn to trust those gut feelings more?
There are many practices that can help: meditation, mindfulness, spending time in nature. It's about quieting the mind and tuning into the subtle signals that our body and intuition are sending us.
It's like we're reclaiming a lost part of ourselves, a part that's connected to something deeper and more profound than we can fully comprehend.
And who knows what doors that might open for us. Perhaps by embracing our intuition, we can unlock hidden potentials and gain a deeper understanding of the mysteries that lie at the heart of existence.
Well said. It's a journey worth taking. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been on quite a journey exploring the paranormal and unexplained, and I'm eager to continue our conversation. It feels like we're piecing together a fascinating puzzle with each story and insight revealing another layer of the mystery.
It's like we're all part of a giant cosmic puzzle, searching for our place and trying to understand the bigger picture.
And each of these stories, each glimpse into the unknown, is like finding another piece. It might not give us the full picture, but it adds to our understanding.
I love that analogy. It's about the journey, not necessarily arriving at a final destination.
Exactly. Speaking of journeys, I'm curious about your thoughts on the concept of reincarnation. It seems to come up often in discussions about the paranormal.
Reincarnation is a fascinating concept. The idea that our souls might cycle through multiple lifetimes, learning and evolving along the way. I've come across many accounts of people who claim to have past life memories or believe they've been reincarnated.
Some of those accounts are incredibly detailed and compelling. It makes you wonder if there's a deeper connection between us than we realize. Perhaps we've crossed paths before in other times and places.
It's a mind-boggling thought, isn't it? And if reincarnation is real, it raises all sorts of questions. What is the purpose of each lifetime? What karmic debts might we be carrying? Are we drawn to certain people for reasons that go beyond this current life?
It definitely adds a whole new dimension to the idea of personal growth and spiritual evolution.
Mhm.
It's like we're all on this grand adventure spanning lifetimes, weaving together the tapestry of our souls.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Hmm.
And perhaps these paranormal experiences, these encounters with the unknown, are glimpses into that larger tapestry.
Reminders that there's more to life than what we can see and touch, that our consciousness might extend beyond the physical realm.
Exactly. That our journey might continue in some form even after death. It's both humbling and awe-inspiring.
Well said. And with that profound thought, we've come to the end of our deep dive into the paranormal and unexplained. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible insights and stories with us today. It's been a truly enlightening conversation.
It's been my pleasure. These topics never cease to fascinate me, and I hope our conversation encourages others to explore these mysteries with an open mind and a sense of wonder.
And for you listening out there, we hope this deep dive has left you with more questions than answers and sparked your curiosity about the world around us. Remember to trust your intuition, keep an open mind, and never stop exploring the unknown. You never know what you might discover.